All right, now that we're back at school, we need to take a little bit of time and get set up for Lightroom. So, previously we've been mostly working off of whatever devices we had at home, and we've been using, some of you might have been using Lightroom, some people have been using Photopea and other things. So we need to kind of pull everything back together because you're going to be at school, so we may as well take advantage of what we have. So it's going to be really important that you're using your own, the one computer that you've been assigned to. But we are going to be setting it up so that we use Google, like the Google file stream as well. But that is just really so that long term, if you want to work on stuff from home, you have access to things, not so that we can actually move around and change computers. So we're going to do a couple of things to kind of get us set up. So first things, let's just jump here on the computer. Now, if you don't already have this in the dock, you're going to want to go to the Launchpad and find Google Drive file stream. So once you have that, go ahead and click on it. And what that will do is it'll launch, and that means it'll be up here as part of your drive. So with that being said, we need to set up a couple of things inside of Google Drive. So we're going to go ahead and click there. And when we do that, inside of Finder, we now have this, anytime that's turned on, we've got this new kind of location. It's like a mounted hard drive, but it's just a cloud drive, right? So on there, we've got some options inside of My Drive. So what we're going to do is I want you to make a new folder that's going to be for all of our photo projects. So let's just say, we're going to say a new folder, and let's just call it, let's just do Photo 2 2020. So let's just, you don't have to name it exactly like that, but something like that, just so you know that it's like the specific folder for all of your photos for Lightroom. Because it's not going to necessarily be the Lightroom catalog, but it's going to be the actual storage location for the pictures. So we need that. All right, so now we've got our photo. You can see here, we've got our Photo 2 2020. So we also want to make one other folder. So we're going to click here and we're going to say New Folder. And we're going to call this Lightroom. Photo 2. So I'm going to have a Lightroom folder. That's where I'm going to be actually saving the catalog. So there's two separate things. There's the catalog, which is the instructions for how to edit and how to organize. And then there's the actual pictures. And we're going to keep those separate, but we want them both inside of Drive. So now we've got our two folders set up, one called Lightroom Photo 2 and the other one called Photo 2 2020. So I'm going to go ahead and close this part. And then now we're going to go ahead and launch Lightroom. So when we do that, if Lightroom's ever been opened on this computer before, there's already a catalog. So what we want to do is we're going to make a new catalog. So you're going to hold down the Option key on the keyboard, which is Alt on the PC, but we're all on Macs today. So we're going to hold down Option and we're going to click one time on Lightroom, but don't let go of Option. So continue to hold the Option key until we see this little dialog pop up. Once we have that, then we can let go of the Option key. Now, what it's showing me is what catalogs we already have. So right now, I already have one catalog, which is on my user, William Sally, pictures, and then Lightroom. Now, I might have lots of libraries. I might have one that's for work. I might have one that's for clients, one that's personal, one that's, from 5 years ago. You can have as many libraries as you want, because sometimes they get really big and you don't want to always have to open up this huge archive of, 10 years worth of work. But what we're going to do is we're going to create a new catalog. So we're going to click on this button here that says Create a New Catalog. And when we do that, let me show you this. So we're going to go ahead and click on Create a New Catalog. So when we do that, it should give us a little dialog window of where to save. Now, the default location is Pictures. Now, if I'm only seeing this little small window, we might want to expand the window using this little arrow here. This is like the disclosure window. So when we do that, it will show us everything, right? So we don't want to save it to Pictures. We want to save it to Google Drive. And then once we get into Google Drive, we're going to say My Drive, and we're going to look for the one that says Lightroom Photo 2. Lightroom Photo 2. Okay. So once we choose the Lightroom Photo 2, we're going to go ahead and select that, and we need to give it a name. So we're going to go ahead and save it as just Lightroom, because that'll be the Lightroom catalog. So once we type in Lightroom up here and it's going into our Lightroom Photo 2 folder, we're going to say Create. Once we do that, that will then launch Lightroom. And we'll now be looking at a blank catalog that has nothing in it because there's no pictures in there yet. So because this is a shared device through through Adobe, we're gonna probably need to log in. If yours doesn't have this, it doesn't ask you for it, then don't worry about it. But I'm gonna go ahead and say continue with Google. And then I'm gonna choose my user. And then when I get here, I'm gonna choose enterprise ID for a school or a company. And then we're all set. So if you need to verify it that way, that's what you need to do. And so now we should be able to close the browser window and go back. All right, so now we're inside of a blank, clean slate inside of Lightroom. Now, if I want to bring stuff in, so the nice thing about this is you could add photos from home, right? So if I was at home and I wanted to bring in some of the stuff I've been working on, let's say like the food shoot, because I want us to do some editing on the food shoot. So what you're going to want to do is at home, it doesn't matter how you get to Google Drive. So I could come in, let's just go ahead and say I was at home and I didn't have Google File Stream. I could come over here and I could go to Google Drive. And I'm going to look in here and I'm going to find my folders. So I'm going to look for the one, not the Lightroom, but the one that says photo 2 period or 2020, right? So photo 2 2020. So once I go in there, right, it doesn't have anything either. So, but I could take some of these folders. So I've been organizing some of my stuff on the desktop. So here's my food. So I'm just going to add this food folder into here. And I might also throw my location scouting in. And I could, let's see what else is on here. Exposure, stop action, shutter speeds, I don't know. Okay, so now I've got 3 folders in there. Okay, now those are all being copied directly into Google Drive. So the Google Drive folder will have those pictures. Now Lightroom doesn't know that they exist though yet. So what we need to do is actually tell Lightroom that those pictures exist somewhere else. And so then we'll be able to start to add them to our Lightroom catalog. So for right now, those are going to continue working, but the food one is now finished. So that's the one that's most important. So when I come back in here in Lightroom, nothing's happened, right? There's no pictures. So what we're going to do is we're going to import. And then it's going to want to know, well, where are those files? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and say Google Drive. And I'm going to say My Drive. And then I'm going to look for the photo 2. Photo 2 2020. There we go. And so inside the photo 2 2020, my food one is now ready. So there's my pictures from the food from the other day. And so I'm going to go ahead and import those. Now, when I do that, there's a couple of things. Now, because those files already exist inside of Google Drive, right? I don't need to actually copy them because my catalog is also on Google Drive. So I just need to know that they're in there and how to access them. So in this case, I'm just going to add. Now, if this was coming off of the camera and I was importing them originally, I would want to copy because I wouldn't want them to just stay on the card, right? But because they're coming from Drive, I can just say add. So I'm going to say I'm going to add these. And then I'll just, now there's a couple of things we could still set up, but I don't think any of these are ones that we need to address. Nope, they're all good. So I'm just going to go ahead and say import. So that'll then copy those 7 photos into my Lightroom catalog so that I have all of my options, or all of my photos. Now, if I was bringing in something that didn't exist inside of Google Drive already, then my import would be slightly different. So I'm going to go ahead and say import. Well, let's see. You know what? I might have pictures here. Well, let's see. All right. So this should have photos from over the summer that I haven't imported into this catalog. All right, so we've got our memory card plugged in. It was having some issues, so I'm just going to go at it a slightly different way, but it'll be the same. So then inside of here is our folder that has all of our pictures on it. And then again, because these are pictures that don't already exist on the actual drive, we need to, instead of adding them, we need to copy it. And notice automatically, when it had a different source, it's now giving us the option to copy, right? So when we do that, a couple of things to keep in mind. Our options over here on the left or on the right are a little bit different. So when I import, I need to tell it, first of all, where is it going to go, right? So I'm going to change a couple of settings. So destination. So is it going to go into a subfolder? I think it's always a good idea to put it into a subfolder. So I'm just going to put summer 2020. And then where, though, right? So I don't want it to go into Macintosh hard drive. I want it to go into Google Drive. And then I want it to go inside of my drive. And then I want it to go inside of the photo to 2020. Right, so then those pictures will be copied into the photo to 2020. The library is already separate, it's in its own folder. So that's where it's going to go. And then that's my destination. It's going to create a new folder in there. I'm not going to worry about renaming it. If you're doing the school's camera, since you guys are going to be using the same camera all the time, I don't think you'll need to rename it in the same way that we did before. But otherwise, you could do that through file renaming up here at the top. So then I'm going to go ahead and just say import. But let's look. So if you did want to do file renaming, just in case, you could say rename. And if you wanted to just go rename it by the date and time, like that would be fine. You can give it a custom name with sequence. You've got options in there. I'm going to go ahead and not do that. So I'm just going to hit import. And so then that will then copy those and then add them to my library. So that's really what we need to do to get set up. We just basically need to make sure that it's doing it through Google. That way you can add stuff from home easily. Just add it straight to Drive, and then when we come in class, we can just say add. Those are instantaneous. And then also, if you're at home, you'll have access to those files if you need to do something on Photopea at home, but you can at least add those files and save them, from there, and then readjust them, in another application. So that'll be the most streamlined way for us to work. And that's the first thing we need to do is start to get set up, because we've got a shooting assignment to do over the next couple of days. So hopefully that helps, guys, and I'll talk to you soon.